Yo. Welcome, everybody, to Swollapalooza Thursday. I'm Steve Ivy. Shortly, I'll be joined by Mike Rowe of ramnation.com. We've got a great show planned for you. We'll spend a lot of time talking about the portal today. There it is behind me. Wait a minute. Let me reach behind because all kinds of things have been happening in the portal today. Oh my gosh. Oh, Rashawn Mbemba is staying. The news has broken. Rashawn Mbemba is staying. One of many things we've heard today and heard this week. And hopefully you're as pumped as I am with what's going on. This is a crazy process. As we know, the portal opened just a little over a week ago. And I had a guest on last week, Brandon Goebel, to talk about it. Brandon runs verbalcommits.com, and we had a good time talking about all the different kinds of things he's involved with. But it's portal time right now, and so we're gonna have some fun talking tonight. But first, we're gonna do a little bit of a recap of the season before we get into all the details of what's going on. But it's an exciting day. For those of us, let me bring on, I'm not going to wait any longer. I don't need to sell anything. You guys can hit the like button. You guys just can subscribe if you want. But the more important thing is I've got my guest on, Mike Rowe, Ham's Chorizo on ramnation.com. Mikey, how are you tonight?
I'm good. The night keeps getting better. There it is.
Everybody anxiously awaiting all the things going on today, and it has been a crazy day, and we'll get into that in great detail in a little bit with what's going on. But just wanted to catch up with you and just see how we want to make sure we spend some time recapping the season. I tried to get both you and Joel on, Joel Cantalamessa from ramnation.com. Of course, Joel big time me today, right? As he's been known to do.
He's big time me all week. I'm like, hey, we need to let's get an episode in. But no, he's gotta go golfing in Scottsdale. So
yeah, what's that all about? Golf when it's beautiful here, right?
Right, exactly. Use the yellow ball.
But you guys, my first Swollapalooza Thursday show was you and Joel, and I wanted to do bookends on the season. You guys started it, and I wanted to use you guys to kind of finish it. I will still do some shows on Thursday night. I'll try and do one a week, but there isn't a lot to talk about. As there won't be once the portal dies down. We'll have to. I'll probably take a little bit of a respite until the season starts kicking back in with summer workouts in June. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the season we just witnessed before we get into next year's roster. We spent a lot of time texting back and forth way back when. You had the good fortune of going to the tournament and getting to see this whole thing really come together and CSU getting into qualifying for the NCAA's via the auto bid. But did you ever think you'd see that moment when CSU was cutting down nets and getting ready to accept the trophy?
I know Joel and I have talked about this a lot. We went to the CU game together, and that ride home, and our text thread, I mean, you're on it and Diablo's on it. I thought after that game that this was going to be an incredibly long season. There wasn't a lot of positive. About the only thing that really came out of that game was Joppa he came in towards the end and he wasn't backing down from players. And Cayenne, he was the one starter that really, just took it to the Buffs. Everyone else kind of, just had bad time to have their worst games of the season. But those two guys, that was about it. That was about the only positive from that entire game. And, and this coming off of a week after blowing that game against UC Riverside, who ended up being a decent team. Didn't think that in November, but it just, nothing looked positive. Nothing looked good with this group at that point. So no, Steve, I was not expecting to be on the floor at Thomas and Mack and watching them cut down the strings.
Ryan with the comment, I knew we were going to win the Mountain West Conference tournament that night in December in Boulder.
The only thing he knew was that I bought him a couple beers. That's all he still owes me.
It was, I remember, we saw each other. We sat real close to each other. I remember walking up to Roth and Nygon after the game, and Nygon just looked at me and shook his head. And we couldn't figure out what quite happened. We got run over by a truck that day. And, it's possible things like that happen. But boy, that was as low as it got. And as you pointed out, Joppa did some things in over a 5-minute period. You go, well, that was pretty good. And Kyan Evans actually had a pretty good second half. He showed a little bit of fight, and I thought that was kind of an important few minutes for Kyan, even though we never really challenged in the final score. I think it was 72-55, and that pretty much flattered us. We weren't pretty good. We could have lost by 40.
Yeah, no, the score did not indicate how bad of a blowout that was. It really was a bad game against a bad team. The Buffs are a bad team. If you saw them getting smoked yesterday in the historic CBC tournament or 2 nights ago, yeah, that was one of the lows over Niko Medved's career, over those 7 years, that game right there. And you just, all you could think of is like, how are we going to come out of this? Like, how long is this season going to be? And fortunately things clicked about a month later.
Yeah. It was funny. You guys drive a long way to come to games, and there was a lot of talk of, I'm not sure I'm gonna make these drives. It was it's not an easy drive, and I know there were a lot of people talking about that. And then all of a sudden, little things started showing up. The Nevada win, and then obviously the New Mexico loss was not good, but then big win, blowout win over San Jose, and all of a sudden the Rams, they started looking good and things started falling into place. And we started seeing these little slight improvements every game. And then, as Lee said, Lee has a comment here. Aztec game at home gave me hope for the season. I was the same way. That was the game that convinced me we could be a good team, because with San Diego State, it's kind of even in a down year, they're always the team you're going to measure yourself against. They're the top team in the conference year after year after year. Even if they don't finish in first, they are the brand that you want to be able to compete with. And they were healthy and getting good, and we handled them over. Played a great 40 minutes and beat them by 5. Never trailed by more than 4. Fought our way to great win. That's where I got hope as well, Lee. But we kept improving from that. We had a couple of tough ones after that at New Mexico and Utah State, but they were bookended around the San Diego State win. But after that, it was like, holy moly, this thing just took on a life of its own, right?
And I know I brought this up multiple times. It really was that San Jose State game. You made the comment, you and Jeff Grammer were talking about it after the New Mexico loss at home, how that was the worst starting 5 as far as points per possession that either one of you have seen, like maybe ever. Like our starting five was not good. And not to bash on Ethan Morton or anything like that. That next game was when he was sick. He didn't make the trip to San Jose State. Crocker Johnson went back into the starting lineup, and Memba started getting healthy, and, kind of the rest was history. Our starting five became solidified. Ethan Morton found a perfect role for him, coming off the bench, being that kind of the glue guy, the Joe Palmer role. Maybe not as good of a shooter, but kind of better at everything else than what Palmer was. And I mean, that really was when this team started clicking, and to see that growth within a month time frame from that CU loss, it was fun seeing that. And I mean, the ride was great.
Yeah, it started, and then momentum started building, and then all of a sudden you get into this winning streak, and we were crushing teams at home. I pointed out the only team, I mean, San Diego State, we lost to New Mexico, and San Diego State, we never led by more than 8. We won by 5. But every other team we played at home at Moby, we led by 17 or more. And some of the games we led by 36 points. We had like 3 games we led by 36 points. And it's just crazy. The average win at home, even with that loss to New Mexico, the average margin at home was absolutely nuts. They just caught fire. And it was almost surreal watching it, and watching it develop. And then, you knew we were winning, and we had to win that game. We didn't have to win that game at Boise at the end of the year, because we knew we had to win the tournament, right? And we still won by 10, and we looked like the way better team. Boise had to win that game. There was pressure on them, and they at home on senior night, and they really didn't do squat. And we just rolled them all. We rolled all over them. And then you get to the tournament, and you knew we had to win the tournament. And we played as if there was no pressure, as if we were free. And it must have been, just total freedom and belief. And it must have been fun for you to watch those games. Just watching how, I mean, we were really good.
We were playing with house money. That streak, we were playing with house money, and there's almost a kind of a sense of relief where last year and in 22 we knew that we were going to get in, or most likely we were going to get in with an at-large bid, but you didn't want to blow that at-large bid. We didn't have that opportunity this year, and instead of putting that pressure on yourself, you got to get wins. It's, hey, let's go out and play. And they did that. And, being in Vegas, and I got there on Friday, I watched the Nevada game on TV and flew out Friday morning. And that Utah State game, they had a great crowd. And the crowd was actually pretty dead because New Mexico had just lost. Boise State had just beat them, and there were tons of New Mexico fans, and it was just quiet because of them. But Utah State had a good crowd, and we had a better crowd on Saturday. But we had a pretty vocal section, and just to see us come out and knowing what we had just did to them 2 weeks prior in Moby, and to just start hammering them and literally putting the game away at halftime. It was awesome. And to see their fans, the adults, they just started leaving. About 10 minutes left in the game, they just started leaving. And then the herd, they came down and filled their spots. And, I mean, Utah State kind of cut it back. But then our team, Nick Clifford, just took over and ended it and put that dagger to them. And I mean, it was awesome seeing them leave, walk out of the arena. You know, they, them and their freaking gloves. What I don't get, them and their gloves, and to see that and going into that next day and just, I mean, really just knowing and like having a very quiet confidence that we were going to do it to Boise State again. I know that Jalen Lake hit a 3 to win that first game at home. We blew them out. We literally blew them out.
Yeah, we were up 19 in that game.
Yeah, exactly.
Or excuse me, 17. My bad. Only
they
17.
Made a kind of a miraculous comeback, but we won that game, and then to go there the week before and beat them by 10, like you said, on senior night, sold out crowd, and in a place that we haven't done well in since they've joined the Mountain West. And just going in that Saturday, it just, even when we were down, it didn't score a bucket for 5 minutes. You just knew as soon as we got that first one. And Bourne and Morton came and took that while we were down 5-0 and outscored them 11-0. Just those two guys before Neek finally hit a bucket. And I mean, it was all Rams after that. And
yep.
It was great. We bought tickets thinking that we were going to be behind our bench, but the Boise section was behind our bench, so we were in the middle of the Boise section. And so to hear them chirping and then suddenly shutting up for the next 30 minutes was, I mean, it was great. It was so much fun. That was my first Mountain West trip. The only time I'd been able to go out there, I was on the plane when Wyoming beat us in 2020.
I remember that.
yeah. So I got to land and was like, well, I don't need to go to the Mountain West tournament now. So it was great. It was awesome seeing Gloria literally sprint across the stage, toss the trophy to Nico, and then bail. So I wish I would have brought my Pac-12 flag, but I decided not.
Oh, that's priceless. You know, I wish I'd been there, but I was saving myself. I had such belief in this team. I was saving myself for the NCAA tournament, and was able to. Aaron piping in, ha ha ha. That's Gloria, what's up with that, girl? But I was saving myself for the NCAA tournament, and of course, that was a great weekend as well. Great trip to Seattle. You weren't able to make that. Joel made that, of course. I got to see Joel a bunch. Wish we could have seen you up there.
Yeah, I was going across the pond. I was in England for the last 10 days. Left that on the 21st and got back on the 31st. So I was able to watch the first game that Friday afternoon before we took off, and then had to find a pirate feed.
Yeah, there you go. But at least you got to see then you got to see the Three Lions, right?
Yep, saw the Three Lions at Wembley last Monday, and saw Fulham Crystal Palace and FA Cup action on Saturday. So that was a good trip. Watched a little cricket. Watched Derbyshire Cricket Club in a friendly against Oxford University. So yeah, no, it was a good trip. I would have loved to have been in Seattle, although I heard Aaron Harris was there, so that usually makes things a little less fun.
We had a great time. We missed you. So anyway, I just to put the final wrap on the season, and I want to get your perspective. You've been around CSU for basically 30 years or so. Can you recall a season that can even come close to what happened during this season?
No, and you can kind of look at that 2003 team but they just got hot at the right moment. Is that kind of the final 7 games where they still lost the regular season finale, and then went on the tear in the Mountain West tournament. I mean, that's kind of similar, but because they actually had a decent non-conference year that year in the fall of 2002, and then were just horrible. And Dale Larry was just horrible in conference play, and then as they kind of turn it on that last 7 games. But I like you compare this to the 13 or the 2012 and 13 teams. You compare it to the 22 and 23. I don't see, or 22 and 24. To me, this is the best team that I've seen at CSU. And yes, they won the first round and 6 seconds away from being in the Sweet 16. But to me, this was a team that you saw develop, and they developed together, and a team that has the best player that I've seen in a CSU uniform in Nate Clifford. And you put all that together, and I mean, it was just a hell of a ride, and it was fun. It was fun celebrating it with that team, with those young men, and with that coaching staff, and it's something that I love what it's going to do for the future. I mean, I got my school. I have so many kids that have been talking about CSU over the last 3 weeks that 2 of them literally wear CU stuff all the time. And they talked to me about how they were cheering for CSU. One girl today, I was wearing my CSU hoodie. She's like, "I love your hoodie." And this is a kid that always wears CU stuff. And to see what it's done, I mean, I had teachers that had no care, coworkers tell me how they were just living and dying, and how they were so brokenhearted when Maryland won at the end. And you look at all the pictures from all the bars throughout Denver, and this is a team that I think can really take CSU to the next level. And I think we're seeing it right now, today, like literally today and yesterday, what this team is going to do for the future.
Yeah. By the way, Aaron with a comment before, unlike Kuhn and Rowe wouldn't have been kicked out of Queen Anne's, CSU had their pregame receptions at a place called Queen Anne's, which was about 3 blocks from the arena. And I wasn't aware Kevin got kicked out. Here, integrity matters. Did you go to High Wycombe and get me a jersey?
Man, get out of here. Wanderers. We don't talk about the Wanderers.
Lee, 13th and 20th and 2 draft boards. I want to point out something and I sent something to you. I don't have the graphic ready to pull up. I just didn't feel like doing it. But, you talk about this run-in and what this team did from February 15th on till now, basically the last 10 games of the season, CSU analytically was the 7th best team in the country, trailing only the teams in the Final Four. Let's see, a couple of teams in the Elite Eight. We were ahead of a couple of teams in the Elite Eight in terms of the analytics. And we actually were ahead of Maryland as well, who finished just behind us because Maryland was playing very, very well. But the other thing, I sent you guys, I sent you and Joel something that showed individual performance over the last 10 games. So since February 15th, and the top player in the country was Nate Clifford over the last 10 games. This is barttorvik.com. Which is a predictive metrics tool that looks at a lot of different things. And Torvik is a model that's used by the NCAA in terms of selection. And so it's pretty darn good. And when it comes to individual play, he's got a formula. And Nate Clifford was the best player in the country since February 15th, which really, really says something. And I think the way this team came together, led by, and like you said, Neek, I don't know how to describe it, but he went from being good to very good to out of this world in the course of a season, all the while improving his leadership skills as well, and carrying a team. So not just showing the individual skills, but the leadership as well.
You go back to that Boise State. You go to the Boise State game there. We're down. Well, we were down 7, just inside the second half, and he just took over. I mean, he literally just took over that game by himself. And to see what he did there, and then you take that to the next week, you look at a player like that, lots of players like that, who come out and they, I mean, his shot was off. His shot was completely off that game. And for him to start doing all the other little things, getting the rebounds, getting the assists, making that extra pass, knowing that his shot was from the outside, wasn't there, and driving to the bucket and getting fouled. But for him not to start pouting about this, to not being upset about this, and doing everything to get that win, that tells you what kind of a player he is. He can score 31 points like he did the week before in Boise, and he can score 14 like he did against Memphis, and still be the most important and best player on the floor.
Yep.
And that's something that I've never seen at CSU. We've had some greats. Mil Palacio, amazing player. Roddy Stevens. I mean, you going back, Troublehorn and those guys in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Neek's by far, to me, is by far the best out of all of them, because he can win it from shooting outside. He can win it from driving to the basket, making that pass. His passing and dribbling improved so much from last year. But you're right, from the start of this season to the midpoint to the end, like, his ball handling skills completely changed. And that just tells you how much he's working on. I mean, how much he was working on all the little things to make himself better, to make this team better.
Yeah. And the thing, we're about to launch into, we'll start talking next year's team now, and we'll start talking portal. And I think, one of the things that, as we start talking about the players that are staying and the players that are coming, they look at a guy like Neek and they go, holy moly, I want to be that same kind of player. Now, I hope they realize they're going to get, the one thing that CSU has provided is they've created this beautiful environment for people to develop and grow. The leadership has been there from Coach Medved, and I think we'll see pretty much the same thing from Ali. But the other thing is, Neek has done so much of that himself. He has really worked his ass off, and he's his own toughest critic. He really is. And you can talk to him after. I talked to him a week ago. After they came back from at Ali's press conference, and I talked to him, and it was after they lost to Maryland. I said, "Boy, you guys were great." He goes, "I was terrible." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" He goes, "Well, I couldn't make a three." And I said, "And that didn't make you terrible." I said, "You're still the best player on the floor." And he is his own worst critic, but he has worked so hard to get to that point, and has earned. He came to a place that embraced him. He embraced the experience at CSU, and I think we owe this season, a lot of the season, not just to all the players, but especially to Neek, because what he did, not just in terms of, like I said, building himself into a much better player, but taking on the leadership responsibility too. But let's start talking portal. I think, it opened about a week and a half ago, and
We're
I think,
portal, baby.
all of 10 days, and it feels like an eternity. And here we are, we're biting our nails. We're going crazy. And I've been talking through the season about, boy, wouldn't it be nice if we can keep this young core together? But you knew things were going to start happening. And then all of a sudden, Coach Medved takes the job at Minnesota, and we kind of knew that was going to happen. And then fortunately, we have a very smart administration that was good enough to recognize that Ali was the best successor, hired him immediately to give us a chance to retain some of these players. But I think we all knew that things might change. And the first hit was a week ago, just last Saturday, when Kyan Evans announced he was entering the portal. And that was hard, but we kind of knew it was coming, right?
You can't blame him for seeing what's out there. Now, I'll say this: it's been 5 days. He still hasn't signed anywhere. You look at how many players have jumped in. They're already posting pics of their new team and all that, and he hasn't yet. So, what's going on? I have no idea. No clue. Hopefully that means that he's talking a lot to Ali, weighing his options, and as he should. But hopefully at the end of the day, he realizes, what is going to be best for his career, and whether that means going someplace like Minnesota or staying with Ali and continuing to develop and seeing what Isaiah Stevens did, what Nick Clifford did, and hopefully wanting to follow that path where you're not getting a little scratch now, where you're getting scratched that lasts for years and years and years in the at the professional level.
Yeah. So Kyan goes in, and of course, my belief was, I mean, just in the talking to people the people that I talked it over with, I had a feeling he would go in, and I've always believed that it was more likely that he would not go anywhere but Minnesota with Nico or CSU with Ali. He was recruited by Ali, close with Ali, but he's also very close with Coach Medved, and so I lean toward basically a 50-50 kind of thing, and there's a chance Kyan could end up somewhere else. He could end up getting a big offer. There's a lot of money flying around, but then the next big one hits. Was it Monday or Tuesday? With Jalen Crocker Johnson announced he was entering the portal with a do not contact label, and I think that was a dead solid indicator that he was going to be joining up with Nico. And the next day they announced it, and it wasn't. Again, it's not a surprise to me that it happened. The kid developed into a really good player, and he showed he could play against Big Ten level bigs by playing as well as he did against Maryland. He competed really well against a very good front line with Maryland. And so that was kind of the next step and it kind of had us down though, because we enjoyed having him for that year. Right.
Yeah. We did. And we're going to talk about this player in the future, but in just a little bit, but he was a late signee. Like, you think about how this portal is, where we are today, literally today, and you look at all the transfers who we've gotten in the past, they've all come like 3 or 4 weeks after the portal is opened. And that was JCJ, and I wish that we were going to keep him. I wish he could have stayed, but more power to him. Good luck. Hope he does well. Yep. And, it always looks, think about how much people talked about how CSU with Tanjay. So hopefully he can go do something big in the Big Ten in Minnesota, and people look back, oh, you could see it at CSU, and it just kept going. So
Yeah, it's and like you said, more power to him. He got a pretty good money offer, and I'm sure, coming out of high school, he was very overlooked as a recruit. He was a two-star, and his best offer was Little Rock in the Ohio Valley. Was freshman of the year. CSU got onto him late. He wasn't our first pick last year, was he?
No, he was not.
In fact, our first pick last year is our first pick this year.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that in a second. But the other one I just wanted to mention was Jaden Stepp, freshman who played a little bit, decided not to redshirt and played a little bit, decided to go into the portal as well. And I think what we heard was he was kind of getting the indication that there was going to be a log jam. He's kind of a 3-4 combo. And the belief was there was going to be a little bit of a log jam, especially because I'm sure he started getting wind of a player who was going to be coming here to replace Jalen Crocker Johnson. And let's talk about him right now. Carey Booth. CSU has Carey Booth coming for next season. He came here from Illinois, spent a year there after spending his freshman year at Notre Dame. Originally recruited by CSU, and I actually met him on a recruiting trip with he and his dad Calvin, who's the general manager of the Nuggets. Of course, I didn't talk to Carey because as a booster that would be a violation. I could just say hello. Now the Wild West, I could probably hand him $500 and no one would give a shit.
Right.
But I did talk to Calvin a bit, really nice guy. And Carey was originally going to go to Penn State, and then the coach left Penn State and went to Notre Dame. So he ended up at Notre Dame in the ACC and did well. He started 19 games out of the 33, averaged about 20 minutes a game, so about half a game, and put up reasonable numbers. I think about 6 points and 4 assists in 20 minutes, which is pretty good in the ACC. And then he decided to move on and moved on to Illinois. And I'll talk at some point. I'll run into him. We'll get him on the show and we'll talk to him. But he was basically brought into Illinois and then recruited over, and never really had the opportunity to play at Illinois. And for a guy, this is a top 100. This is a 55th 55th ranked player in the class of 2023. He's a very, very good player, and I think he's the highest high school ranked player that CSU I think has ever had, and so there's a lot of excitement. And here's a note here: Carey also entered with the do not contact. A good example of how the portal works both ways. That's exactly right. You can bet that he's been in contact with. I don't know if he has an agent. I assume he has an agent, but you can bet he's been in contact with CSU because he's looking at a guy like Nick Clifford going, holy moly, I want the same opportunity. And he's very familiar with his staff and very familiar with Ali. And so here we go. Carey Booth is a Ram. How excited are you?
I am. If you go back 1 year ago, we were on him hard, and he wanted a bigger bag, went to Illinois, kind of the rest is history. But everyone was, you go back to Tuesday when JCJ enters the portal and everyone's just so mad and the whole program's falling apart. And then one day later, Booth announces that he's coming here. And if this was a year ago, no one would have been saying, oh, I can't believe we didn't get JCJ out of Little Rock, that we got Booth out of Notre Dame. It works out. And the portal works both ways. And it would have been great to have him this year. But he wasn't ready for that. Like, obviously, that wasn't where his headspace was. And now, again, you use Nick as an example. These players see that, and they see how he developed, and you see his relationship with the staff. And a kid like Booth wants that now. He sees that, and he knows what this staff, and we kept half the staff. You know, Ali moved over one chair, but we kept two of the main guys that are further down the bench, and then brought in a great, even though he is a Zoomy.
Oh, well, what do you mean even though? You're a big fan of the Zoomies. Dave Filipovich is who you're referring to.
You know, and you look at our staff, and, you know, a kid like Booth who has all the talent in the world, and you know, our friend Noramska, Jeff Riley, has talked about that's what he saw out of him in high school, like the athletic ability that he had. And if we can take that and do just like what everyone said with Neek, what they saw out of him in high school, and saw glimpses of that, you know, when he was in Boulder, you get a player like that, you get another player like that coming in, and it's exciting. You know, tall, lots of length, and these are the kind of players that, you know, we haven't gotten for a while, you know, and it's all because of this year's team, because of Neek Clifford, because of Ollie Frogmanish. That's where this program's starting to go.
Yep, absolutely. And it's the relationships with that Ali has with all these players that is absolutely critical. You know, I kind of had a feeling that they were still involved with that. I remember going, you know how we used to joke around during the season. We'd go say, geez, look what Kerry Booth did today. 1 minute, no shots, or he didn't play today and his team was up 30. It was amazing how he got stuffed on the bench, and the kid is a really, really good player. And obviously Underwood didn't see him as a valuable person in his program. But I was at a CSU practice, and I was talking to Joe Deciman, who went on to, you know, left CSU, went with Nico, but Joe's a great kid. And when I was talking about the importance of playing, I said, Joe, you know this, that ultimately you can practice all you want, but ultimately the game is the teacher. And if you're not playing, it's tough. And I said, you know, I said, have you seen what's going on with Kerry Booth at Illinois? And he started talking like he's been following him like we did. And when Joe started talking that way, I started getting the feeling that maybe they were still very interested in him and they knew what was going on. So you never know. But they've managed, they worked that relationship, and within minutes, it seems, of Crocker Johnson announcing he was going to Minnesota, Kerry Booth is a Ram. And I'm so excited. He was the original target last year. He was a target 2 years ago. He's a Ram, and Ram fans should be very, very excited to have a person of his background, skill, athleticism. Now it's time for him to go to work. And then so let's roll to today, and it got crazy today.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember what came first. What did they start? Did they announce our new guard, or did they announce? Did the players start announcing that they were returning? I couldn't remember.
Jorgensen was first.
Okay.
He announced it, and then and then Slater was first, Jorgensen, then the Butler news, and then Joppa and McKinnon and then I figured he's from Canada. I mean, Minnesota. It had to have been McKinnon, and then just now, Takamemba. So it's been a fun day.
So this Jace Butler thing, you know, I started. So people need to realize Ali is really well connected. Ali has a reputation of being a great recruiter for a reason. He knows a lot of people, and the one thing about CSU when they recruit is they're very, very quiet about players. And they tend to go back and talk to players in the portal that they have strong relationships with that they probably offered at one time. So Carey Booth was a perfect example of that. And I noticed last week there were a couple of players that Ali was on. One was a class of 2023 kid whose name was Gehrig Normand, who's in the portal. He redshirted 1 year at Michigan State and pretty much didn't play this year. And the second one that I noticed was a kid named Jace Butler, who was originally recruited by Illinois. CSU offered him. He committed to Illinois and then decommitted and ended up going with Washington when Danny Sprinkle took the job in Washington. But he didn't play much, and he went into the portal within a first year. And I started thinking one of those two guys, I wouldn't be surprised if we're on him. And then when I saw today the announcement of Jace Butler, it's like, holy moly. Ali really came through with that one. This kid, again, a top 100 player, recruited initially by Illinois, ended up at Washington. I think he was the 13th ranked player in the state of California, 6'4", 200-pound, perfect replacement for Jalen Lake, which is one of the kind of players we needed. I think we're going to have a hard time replacing Neek. What do you? but
maybe a little bit.
But Butler, I saw this and it was like, holy moly, what a coup! We have two guys, Carey Booth, 55th in 2023, and Butler top 100 in 2024. Maybe a lot like a Bejarano type of kid. You know what I mean? He might be. He could end up being that kind of player, about the same size as Danny. And here we go. Lee, kid can play. Bay Area Player of the Year. I don't know. Bay Area have any good hoops? Anyway, how excited were you when you saw this thing on Butler?
Dude, I mean, it was just one hit after another. And how did you get scooped by Rothstein, by the way? I said, or was he the one that broke it? But seeing that and seeing again a top 100 kid, 4-star just a year ago, and seeing that some of the games, some of the stats through the year that he had with Washington, but seeing his length again. I mean, he's like 6'3", 6'4", long arms, and again, these are the type of bodies that CSU haven't gotten, and the type of players that top 100 recruits that CSU's never gotten, and to see someone like that just jump into the portal and already signing with CSU, it's great seeing what Ali has done, the homework that he has done. While these kids are juniors and seniors in high school, this isn't something that just, hey, called his agent. Does he want such and such amount of money? It's, hey, how's your mom doing? Hey, how's your family doing? Like, hey, how are your grades this year? It's doing all that background check and knowing him as a person. That it's why this program is going where they're going. And we can have guys leave, we can have guys come in, but this is a true team together. And I've said that a lot over the last couple of weeks. It really is, and it starts at the top, and now Ali's the one at the top, and it goes all the way down, and to see Butler along with Jorgensen and Slater and everybody else that's staying, it's exciting times at CSU, and if KC could just make that decision and stay, I mean, that's just icing on the cake right there.
Yeah, absolutely. You were talking about team together. There's two guys I want to make sure we mention. One went into the portal, a walk-on named Luke Murphy, and Luke is a great kid, great practice player. I hopefully get a get a chance to play somewhere, maybe a Division II level, he can play. And then the other one, though, who announced he's coming back was walk-on Charlie Dortch. Charlie is a local from Rocky Mountain High School, 6'6", 6'7" kid. Spent a year at Mesa in Grand Junction, came here and then was injured most of the year, wore a boot most of the year, but he'll be back, and he announced he's coming back. And I want to talk, I always mention those guys because they're important parts of the program too. They may just be mostly practice players, but the practice team, the scout team here is really, really talented, and they help a lot. But I want to get back to, you're talking about we're talking about Butler, talking about Darnez Slater, who's a 6'3", 6'4" kid, really built well, long arms. We got JoJo McIver coming in, who's a freshman, 6'2" with a 6'9" wingspan. And I was joking with you guys earlier, as talented as our backcourt was in 2022 when we were a 6 seed playing Michigan, we got pushed around. Isaiah and Kendall Moore got pushed all over the floor by bigger, stronger guards from Michigan. And so I think, and I haven't talked to Ali about this, but I'm sure this is a reaction to getting bigger and stronger in the backcourt, and we'll see it this year. And if KC comes back and with another year of work getting a little bigger and bigger, stronger, you're looking at a dynamite backcourt of KC with Darnez, with Jace Butler, with JoJo McIver, and that's 4 really, really good young players. So, and then I have a comment here. I don't know if they'll be the best, but what a good front court we have the chance to have, because you've got, all we did was we traded Croc for Kerry Booth, and we get an extra year. We get 3 young bigs, Mbemba, Joppa, and Jorgensen, getting a year stronger and a year more experienced. And you add Kerry Booth to that, and you got 4 guys in the forecourt that are pretty darn good, right?
You think of Joppa, who again, he announced that he's coming back too. But you look at him, he was a project this year. I mean, that was another late signing out of Long Island. We knew that he was a footer and excited about that, but he hardly got any time at Long Island. It was one of those like, okay, we're going to develop him over time. And, by the end of the season, he was playing important minutes. Not a lot, but he was playing important minutes. And he helped us win. I mean, huge in that Boise State game at home. Huge in that Boise State game. Huge against Memphis when Memba had picked up a couple early fouls, and he was coming in and holding his own. So seeing our front court, yeah, I mean, those 3 right there, Booth, Memba, and Joppa, and Jorgensen coming in, playing that 3-4 combo role, kind of, that's exciting. And when have we had that? Like, when was the last time that we've had that kind of size down low? Yeah. That kind of size that can play down low.
Yep. Yeah, it's big and strong. There's a good question here. What positions do you think we go after with our last 4? First, I want to make sure I mention we got another good freshman coming in. I'm not sure how ready he's going to be, Dr. Tedeschi. Ali was really high on him. Ali was his main recruiter, and Ali has said nothing but great things about him. So can he come in and play right away? I don't know. I hope so. But the one thing, Nick, we're going to have to figure out a way to do, we're going to have to find somebody who's a legit scorer that has demonstrated the ability to score. We lose a lot with Neek and Jalen. The other guys are, when I say projects, they're going to be good. It's only a matter of time. But we don't have anybody who I would categorize as a true established scorer right now. And if we can get somebody to come in that you can count on to score double digits, it doesn't have to be a 20-point a game guy, but you want to have somebody who can score double digits. Right now, if Kyan came back, he'd be the only guy returning who'd be a double digit scorer. So That's what I think. I think we'll go after somebody who's a scorer. Lee saying there's a D2 kid evidently we're going after who's a stud scorer. We'll see. That would be nice if we can find somebody like that. But you never know about the D2 kids. I mean, Joel Scott worked out well. Cartier worked out well. They were good for 10 to 14 points a game. The kid at CU that could have come here, Trevor Baskin, did not work out for them. He was riding the pine. He playing 15 minutes a game by the end of the year. And that was somebody we were interested in, and who knows what he would have done with this team. I don't know. We probably would have taken him over. I'll bet you we were recruiting him before we were recruiting Ethan Morton. And Morton, I guarantee, is a better player. So yeah, sometimes you luck into things, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think you need a 3, like that combo 2-3 in a Nick Clifford role. I mean, we have to be looking at a point guard right now, in case Evans doesn't come back. We can't get. You said it today. I mean, we kind of got caught flat-footed with Roddy back in 22. We can't be doing that now. We got to be looking for somebody that can step into that role if Evans does leave. And you just said his name, and Ethan Morton. I think we need an Ethan Morton type player. You look at the glue guy, like our last 2 years, our glue guy, Joe Palmer and Ethan Morton, those guys coming off that bench and just doing everything that they can to help the team win. I think that we need one of those last 4 scholarships needs to go to a player like that, somebody that will know their role, somebody that doesn't have that ego coming in, knows that they can play 30 minutes one game, maybe 10 minutes the next game.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I just remembered I didn't mention Keyshawn Williams is leaving. I'm going to miss Keyshawn. Keyshawn can fill it up. He can score. He was playing, his role, 10 minute, pretty much 10-minute a game, 10 to 15 minutes. There were games where he scored 15 or 18 points. He could fill it up, but struggled a little bit in terms of the flow. Started playing better defense as the season went on, but it didn't come necessarily naturally to him. And so good luck to him. I really want him to do well. He's a great kid, and always remember him. And he was an important part of this team. He hit a big bucket against Illinois, against Maryland. And he contributed. He was an important cog in the wheel. So here's a question: any chance Petraitis would transfer from Cal? You're an Air Force guy. You would know if Rytis Petraitis.
That was a name that I was going to look for today to see. Has he entered the portal? Because he was not getting the time that I'm guessing he thought he was going to get. That I thought he was going to get heading there. That's somebody who I'd love to see in green and gold.
Yeah, he would be that Morton type of player.
Yep.
And little better scoring capability, but that same kind of player, a guy who gets tough rebounds and guards like crazy. And to be honest with you, I think he's very happy. My guess is he's very happy at Cal. He's a great student. His parents, I think his parents are both rocket scientists. Seriously.
Nice.
So that's why he went to Air Force. And believe me, I'm sure he's taking very difficult courses he's not just a basketball player. He's a great student, and I'm sure he's interested in getting a degree. So here we go. And we'll see. He played AAU ball with Jalen Lake, so they're good friends. I would hope that he'd contact him. So Lee talking high school with Kyan. Kyan's let's see. Here we go. High school with Kyan. Kyan had 2 teammates, not Petraitis. 2 teammates that are playing Division I. Cam Manyow, who went to Wyoming, and then Drake, and now he's at Iowa. He just went to Iowa with the Drake coach, McCollum. And there's another kid named Caden Fish who sat and rotted on the bench at Iowa State for 2 years, who just transferred to Ball State. We recruited him originally, and he went to Iowa State and hasn't done anything, and I doubt if we're interested in him right now. He hasn't played in 2 years. That was my point. Guys need to play. You don't want to sit more than a year. If you sit a year, that's one thing, but you don't want to sit 2 years. If you sit 2 years, it's kind of, Jack Payne made a smart decision. Kyle Evans made a smart decision. Jack moving on to Idaho, played a lot for Idaho. Kyle Evans, a nice backup, big role for UC Irvine, who went to the NIT semifinals. So anyway, that was I don't know about Petraitis. I doubt if I'm going to guess not, but I'll bet you there's somebody else that we don't know about that we've recruited in the past that may be sitting on a bench somewhere. That just knowing the way Ali operates, he's very tight-lipped, as well he should be. It works for him. And it's pretty much, they don't want to tell everybody what their plans are because Ali's got such a great reputation as a recruiter that once he's on to somebody, other people will find him. If they find out, they'll go after him. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's great seeing what he's done in the past, and man, what he's already doing in a week's span. It's exciting. I love what we're seeing for the future, and tip of the cap to Amy and John to making the right move, making not just the smart move, the right move, but again, you look at Boise State, you look in football, and you look at how every time that they almost every time that they've gotten the next head coach, how much better the program kept getting. And I mean, this is that next step, the next evolution of this program, and I'm excited about it. I really am. I was really nervous last year when Nico decided to come back that we were going to lose Ali. I mean, he was ready, and he deserved a head coaching job last year, and I'm glad that he stuck it out, and I'm glad our admin saw what they needed to do and did it, and loved everything about the presser last week, and I love that he cries.
I do too. I cry a lot.
right. Commercials, Jesus. No, and I think we're in the right hands. We're in the right person is in charge, and I loved what we saw today with all the guys, announcing that they're coming back, and I mean, God, it's going to be a long 6 months until basketball season's back, but hey, I mean, we got summer ball. Did they get to do a international trip this year?
I don't.
Every 4 years.
I think it's every 4 years, and they did one. They did. Was it Mexico 2 years ago? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think so. But the fun part, they'll start arriving in June. They start summer workouts in June, and I am going to have at sometime around the 1st of June, I'm going to have Jason Phillips on, who's the strength and conditioning coach for the basketball team. And I want to talk about what his goals are for the summer games for the team.
Yeah.
We'll have some fun with that. He's a great guy, and he's fantastic in terms of what he's done. The one thing very hidden about Neek's improvement this year was Neek put on 10 pounds, and it doesn't look it. You can't see it. Jalen Lake put on 10 pounds as well, and you could see the way they played, how much stronger they were. But they don't look necessarily any bigger.
Same with Evan.
They put on great weight, and Jason did a great job with them.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he does with Memba and with Jorgensen and Joppa. I think
and Booth too. I want to see Booth put on a few pounds and get a little stronger.
Yeah, and you could tell that. You talked about that San Diego State game, and one of the listeners mentioned it as well. Think about in the past, And you talked about the Michigan game with our backcourt, but last year against Texas, I mean, they pushed Josiah and Isaiah around like the last 30 minutes of that game. I mean, we couldn't move the ball and we couldn't shoot it all anyway, but we didn't have that happen this year. Not once the team figured out the rotations and stuff. We didn't have teams push our backcourt out like we have seen in the past, and that's on Phillips, man. He's done an amazing job, and I mean, you brought up Lake, you brought up Clifford, Evans, same way. I mean, they weren't getting pushed off in San Diego State. The team bully ball, and you think about the times going to Nevada, playing Nevada, how they bullied us around. You look at what UNLV always does to us in Vegas. That didn't happen this year.
Yeah.
You look at Boise, what they've always done. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
And
in fact, they would comment on it, how physical CSU was.
Yes.
The number of people, what was the reputation, 5, 6, years ago? It wasn't that they were a good defensive and very physical team. And now we have this reputation of being very, very physical, and they don't necessarily look it, but they are. And here we go. Lee saying Jorgensen, 10 plus pounds. Look out. Yeah. If he gets, all he's got to do is put on a little bit of weight and just get stronger. He's going to develop into something. He's going to be a really good combination 4-5. We're going to have guys that can really shoot from the outside, that shoot the threes really well, and knock people around. So that's kind of what I'm excited about. Yeah. We'll look like a little bit of an NBA team with the way we shoot, the way we'll shoot from the perimeter with our bigs. So
yeah.
Anyway, we need to wrap it up. We've been on over an hour.
Yeah.
It's flown. I hope you've had fun.
No, I did. And thank you, Steve, for having me on. I love that we opened up the season together and that we're closing this out together. Hopefully you want me on again next year and next season. And I would love to come up in June. If you're heading to a practice, let me know. And
yeah,
I'll head up to.
Well, I'm going to have you on when we do a post game show with Air Force for sure. We're going to do. You're my go-to guy for any Air Force game.
You know it. But no, I appreciate you, what you do, and it's been great. And we got a comment in the.
I got to put this comment up. What a day! Yes, this is a perfect summary. What a day! Looks like CSU will have some size. Not used to that. Also, all of the players announcing that they are coming back shows how good of a program CSU is. That's ultimately the message today, isn't it, Mikey?
Yeah. Look at Maryland. That team's gone. In 1 week, that team is gone. Indiana, they have nobody. Yeah. And
New Mexico has their first player today. They signed a freshman out of Southern California who was going to go to UCSD. New Mexico has nobody.
Yeah. And just seeing those 5 guys coming back, 6 guys coming back, and knowing we got these 2 commits already, it's exciting. It's exciting. And again, I appreciate you having me on, and I love talking basketball. We talk a lot more football, it seems, on the Ram Nation podcast. And so I appreciate. Well,
that pays your bills, right?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But I definitely appreciate you having on. I love talking basketball. I coached basketball a lot more than I did football. A lot more years doing that, and with your sons, all your sons' buddies. With the Lobos back in the day.
There you go. That's right. So, I remember that.
Yeah. So it was fun, and again, I appreciate everything that you do, covering the team. I mean, what you and Kevin and Justin Michael do, it keeps us all informed, and I appreciate what you do, Steve.
Thanks. From Lee, great job, you two. Lee is one of my regulars, and I do this I'm having a lot of fun doing this, and what's really fun is, and this, it's building the community, and you've done it. Joel has done it, and you've helped with the ramnation.com stuff. And I've just been trying to build a little different community with a little different medium. That's all. But thank you, Lee, and thank you everybody who participates in this, because ultimately I always talk about it. It's my channel. But it's our show, it's our community, and it doesn't work without everybody joining us. We've had a pretty good sized audience. This is a record, I think, for live for my Swollapalooza Thursday, which shows you not just the attraction of Mike Rowe, but the attraction of the portal and how excited people
Portland.
are.
No, yeah. Thanks for all the listeners. That's awesome. That's great to hear.
So we're going to call it a night, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Keep your eyes and ears open. If I have anything else to talk about, I certainly will come on and do a show. But we'll plan on doing something to wrap up the portal, which we have a few more weeks. Keep our fingers crossed for KC. If not, hopefully another point guard, a scorer, and we'll go from there. Right, Mikey?
Yep.
All righty. Well, thanks again for coming on. Thanks, everybody. We'll call it a night. Go Rams.
Up the Rams.